John Caldwell, Michigan representative. John Caldwell, 4 July 1849, 7 March 1916, was a 19th-century farmer and timberman of northern Michigan, associated with Missaukee County, Michigan. He was employed for several years by the Mitchell Brothers Company, a land agent firm in several states, dealing with large tracts of timber for making lumber. He homesteaded 100 acres and had a diversified system of farming that proved successful. He was associated with different agricultural societies, including the National Grange of the Order of Patrons of Husbandry. He involved himself with community matters and was at one time or another a highway commissioner, school superintendent, township clerk, township treasurer, justice of the peace, and township supervisor. He was the county treasurer of Missaukee County for 4 years and their supervisor for 10 years. He had close ties with Escanaba, Lake City, Cadillac and Manton, Michigan. Caldwell was Republican member of the Michigan State House of Representatives for 2 terms, from 1897 through 1900. He represented the Wexford district, comprising the counties of Wexford, Missaukee, and Clare. He was an authority on property tax assessment, especially for northern Michigan and the Upper Peninsula. He was involved with developing various laws for the state of Michigan. He was employed by the state of Michigan as a tax assessor for land and property taxation on sawmills in various counties, including Missaukee County in the Lower Peninsula and Delta County in the Upper Peninsula. Early life. Caldwell's parents, John Caldwell Sr. and Jane Thompson Caldwell, immigrated from Ireland and arrived separately in the state of New York in the early part of the 19th century. They were married in 1840. John Caldwell was born at Ridgeway in Orleans County, New York, on July 4, 1849. He was initially given the name George Washington Caldwell, as he was born on the anniversary of national independence. A year later, his parents decided to change it to John Jr., after his father's name. He was the fifth in a family with 8 boys and 1 girl. His naming was in contrast to the contemporary Irish tradition of the firstborn son receiving the father's name, since this name change was an afterthought. He was the 3rd surviving son, however, so inherited the name John and suffix by default. The 3rd and 4th sons of the family died before they were 10 years old. Caldwell came with his parents to Litchfield Township in Hillsdale County in 1856. He worked on his father's farm in the summertime. During the winter, he attended the local public school for children. While his older brothers and his father served in the Civil War, he was too young to enlist for its duration. When he was 17 years old in 1866 or 1867, he went to the woods of Tuscola County in the Thumb area of Michigan for his first employment. This would last for about 4 years. It was the beginning of his timber career, and he began to learn the industry. In November 1869, he traveled to Missaukee County in northern Michigan, where he would be employed for years as a land agent for George A. Mitchell and the Mitchell Brothers Company, buying and selling timber lands for development in Michigan and New Mexico. Midlife. In 1875, Caldwell obtained a homestead of 101 acres (0.41 km2) of government land in Michigan. This property was in Section 4 of Caldwell Township. He later purchased an adjacent 40 acres (160,000 m2) of land and a nearby 80-acre (320,000 m2) parcel. These all contained old-growth white pine timber, which was of considerable value for the development of Michigan. Much of it was used in the construction of Lake City, Manton, Cadillac, and other northern Michigan towns. Caldwell and his older brother Thomas, 1843–1882, were among the first settlers in Missaukee County, and both were deeply involved in developing northern Michigan in the later part of the 19th century. The township of Caldwell, in Missaukee County, is named in honor of them. Thomas was the second son in the family after James. Following the Irish naming practice, his middle name was Thompson, their mother's maiden name. Other Caldwell siblings were William, George, Charlie, and Mary Jane. Caldwell's father died in Big Rapids in Missaukee County in 1870 at the age of 65. His mother, Jane, died in Jonesville in Hillsdale County in 1886, also at the age of 65, as is revealed on her tombstone in the Jonesville Cemetery. She was able to receive a Civil War pension due to her eldest son Caldwell's brother being killed in the Civil War, as well as her husband Caldwell's father having served in the Civil War. Caldwell married Martha E. Babcock of Missaukee County on June 29, 1873. Political career. In 1897, Caldwell was elected to the Michigan House of Representatives on the Republican ticket representing Wexford County, Missaukee County, and Clare County. 2 years later, he was reelected to the legislature. Caldwell received 3,173 votes, defeating the Democratic People's Union candidate Joseph Yarnell, who received 1,888 votes. Caldwell's personal Michigan Legislative Handbook shows the representative members and what districts they represented in 1897. The Escanaba Tribune reports in an article of June 1900. The state representative John Caldwell is in Escanaba in the interest of tax commission. Mr. Caldwell is a member of the present House of Representatives, serving his second term from the Wexford district, and is one of best-known timbermen of the Lower Peninsula. John Caldwell of Manton, Michigan, who is employed by the State Tax Commission to inspect the timber industries of the Upper Peninsula, arrived in the city yesterday afternoon and will meet with the County Board of Supervisors at their special session next Tuesday to adjust the tax. The article further explains the authority he has from the state of Michigan. His authority for this work is given in a signed letter from the tax commissioners, which is as follows: Lansing, Michigan, March 28, 1900. To whom it may concern, this is to certify that Mr. John Caldwell is in the employ of the Board of State Tax Commissioners for the state of Michigan, and he has authority to confer with the supervisors and assessing offers respecting their duties regarding assessments made or contemplated of logs, timber and other forest products, and sawmill plants and lumber or timber manufacture. Respectfully, Milo D. Campbell, A. F. Freeman, Robert Oakman, Board of State Tax Commissioners. Caldwell gave an assessment of Missaukee County in 1900 to the state of Michigan legislature, saying, "I think that Missaukee County is and has been valued higher than it should be as compared to other counties. You are aware that this county's principal value has been in the pine timber which formed unbroken forests over the greater part of its area. All this timber has been removed." He then summarized the forest products and acreage involved with each of these products. The total was 339,097 acres, 1372.28 km2. Caldwell took an interest in public matters and served Caldwell Township as highway commissioner, township clerk, township treasurer, justice of the peace, and township supervisor. He was involved with the township's educational interests and at times filled the school offices. Caldwell was the county treasurer of Missaukee County for 4 years and supervisor for 10 years. He was also involved with various laws in certain townships concerning hunting deer in Michigan. Farming endeavors. Caldwell and his wife were members of Missaukee Grange 918 of the National Grange of the Order of Patrons of Husbandry. He was also the master of Pomona Grange 56 of Missaukee County in 1903, when it was organized. Caldwell originally acquired a homestead of 101 acres, 0.41 km2 of government land in Caldwell Township of Missaukee County in 1875. He later added an adjacent 40 acres, 160,000 into. From this, he cleared 80 acres, 320,000 into of timber, after which the land was worked in an agriculture enterprise. Caldwell had a successful diversified system of farming with multiple substantial buildings for his goods and commodities. Retirement and death. Caldwell retired in 1909 and lived the last 7 years of his life in Manton. He built a house 2 blocks east of downtown Manton at 206 Main Street, which still exists over 100 years later. His daughter Leona and her husband took over the ownership of his homestead in Missaukee County, which they continued to farm for many years. Caldwell was president of the village of Manton for one term. He often took walks downtown to associate with the locals during his retirement. He died 7 March 1916 at his home and is buried at the Caldwell Cemetery. Footnotes and notes. Notes